I also have been having this thought lately about, you ever hear people, they're saying it in like a capitalistic marketing, entertainment marketing phraseology of like, you know, when people are buying your music, they're buying a piece of you. It's you. They're buying your brand. They're invested in your personality and brand. You know, that's why they're buying the whatever.
Yeah.
Have you heard this before?
No, but that sounds very marketing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
I guess I've heard variations on that.
Well, I wanted to unpack that in the context of like songwriting, music making, whatever, because I was reflecting on it when I was thinking about Ryuichi Sakamoto, because I was thinking about how anything he does to me is like just brilliant, and it's like, oh, well, why is that? Because you could hear the same thing from XYZ people, especially when you listen to some of his older stuff from the early 80s or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, this has been done so many times. So what is it about when it's a Sakamoto record that's on that moves you or makes you more invested or feel it more?
Well, because you're like, every day I do brush my teeth. That's crazy.
And it was like, I had the realization of, oh, it's the intentionality, but also having the context of who he is, what he has been saying, what he's wanted to say, and then also when in the timeline he's made what he's made and how that's influenced people. Yeah. So it's like, no, it does hit different, and it does say something different to me. And thinking about that, it made me think more deeply about the, you know, I guess there is a tie-in with the AI art generation conversation, because it's like what makes people like quote unquote invested in an artist and their work,
right?
Beyond just like, oh, it was a moving song, or it was a moving melody or harmony or whatever. And you know, because I've encountered, you know, I've had conversations with some people, and even the last 6 months, where they're like, they're totally buy into this hype that, oh, this is it. I mean, this is going to be the end of like music because AI is going to, and it's like, the first point is like, when you look into technically how that works and what's going on, no, like that's not like the stuff that you're hearing. A lot of the stuff you're hearing, at least in media and publications, they're having AI like generate sort of just, it's like a mess basically that it exports, and they have real musicians and composers go in and they take melodic phrases of it, and they stitch it and then add things to it. That's what you're hearing. Right. But like the idea that maybe for each instrument or each melodic line or whatever, like, because it is math, you know, so like you can probably have a lot of input in terms of, but the AI can't parse, like if it's just getting one whole track or song, it can't like parse each. It can to a certain degree, but not clear enough to where it can then export something that, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when they're saying, oh, you could feed it stems, and then it can analyze each instrument and each whatever. I can see
you're
that.
saying as a whole thing, it can't really make out.
Yeah.
Like the components of it.
Yeah, and I'm not the expert on this, but I have spent some time like looking into it. But the second point that I wanted to make, that's just the first point. The second point is tied to what I'm saying. It's like, where is it coming from? Who is it coming from? What is their story? You know, what are they doing? You know, like, and I know for me, I'm biased because that's sort of like I feel like it's like hard coded into my brain with music. This is also related to the separate the music from the person conversation.
Yeah. You gotta separate the art from artists. That's
right. And it's like, I've had from when I was really young, it's like the person has been a part of the art to me, because music, the way I feel it and perceive it, I feel and perceive it as a form of communication, just like someone talking to me in a room.
Yeah,
they're saying something to me.
Right.
Why are they saying it? I want to know why they're saying what they're saying and what they're trying to accomplish, if they're trying to accomplish anything, if they're just trying to accomplish a feeling, or if the feeling is a means to some other thing.
They're talking to me. The Beatles are talking to me.
I have like 18 different thoughts from what you were just saying, but one of them, when you were talking about Sakamoto earlier, is like, this is kind of a side note, but like it's related to that. It's like, isn't it crazy when you hear something so original, it not only is it so original, it like flips. It like it sounds so original that it sounds futuristic. Like if you're so at the root of a sound of when it started, that it sounds futuristic or like
timeless.
Right? Even watching Genius, the Netflix Kanye doc, like just watching him talk, it's like, oh, this guy is in the future even still. Like he's that's crazy. You know, it's degraded, but like it's like when you're at the very beginning of something that's so impactful before it's even big, it's like it sounds futuristic even now. It's like when you go into any like drum and bass YouTube compilation, everyone's like, this still sounds like the future. Like there's nothing, we've said that on here before.
It's almost
you
like
listen to Goldie, you're like, not only does it sound like the future, it's like, do you know how much work it would take for anyone in this era to even come close to like to really emulating the layers and then even the craft, the skill because of the technological limitations of that time that went into that.
Did you see the Khaled clip that resurfaced?
Yeah, with the
it's called Machine Does Everything For You. It's called Too Easy.
It's called The Drum Machine's Not Even On.
And then Kenny Beats reposted a video of Khaled doing it, and the machine's not even on. And he goes, "It's called The Machine's Not Even On."
Yeah, right.
You gonna say something though?
I was gonna say stuff like that is so cool to me because like every generation kind of has their vision of what they think the future is going to look like. And we never actually get there. We never do that because by the time, you know, the Jetsons version of the future looks fucking silly now.
Yeah.
But like to a certain degree with certain things like music or just like sonic things, it's like it'll always sound futuristic because there just aren't really people like copying it in a way that really is as effective as they think it is, you know? So it just sounds timeless in that way because just like nobody can recreate it.
Dude, I like saw I hope whatever space Twitter like takes up to allow or cultivates to have like those pages where it's just like a loading screen from like Unreal Tournament or like music from a Game Boy game or what, like those just aesthetic compilation pages. I like literally was almost brought to tears with nostalgia looking at like an Unreal Tournament like little graphical rendering, and it had like this like ambient Toonami vibe music that that had that like late 90s really almost like optimistic sounding but like super nostalgic. It's like we haven't gotten past that because like it really like that time period, it was like, oh, this is the end. This is the end,
right? Of
a age of everything, kind of.
Dog, certain shit from that period, like I've never locked into nostalgia so hard as when I just look at like a Toonami Midnight Run promo.
Yeah,
I'm just like Gundam Wing and Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
I'm just like it feels like I'm back at my house from back then, and just like.
Yeah,
like something about it, I don't know what it is, where it feels like I've been transported. It's crazy.
I feel like we're on a wrinkle, like we've gotten to the end of something, and now it's like this bunched up debris at the end of it.
Yeah,
I kind of want to reiterate like the point I was just making, because like I feel like that is where the word that keeps coming to mind is like weight, like. When you depart from just aesthetics to where now I am invested in whatever it is that I'm looking at. It's also related to the form versus content conversation we're always having. Right. Like to spin back to Sakamoto, it's like because I can listen to a record he made in 1980 and it literally sounds like a Jay Dilla record. It's literally like a Jay Dilla beat. And it's like 1980 or maybe 1983. I can't remember which specific one I'm thinking of. Right. now it's like when if I hear something today or I hear something elsewhere in the timeline, I go, I'm interested in what this person has to say through their music.
Yeah,
I'm just interested in a way that I'm not going to be interested with over 90% of people creating music, because it's like, oh, this person is ahead and like is tapped in at another level. And it's like the same thing applies to film or to design or to whatever. It's like you're invested at another level because if someone actually has something to say, or they were doing something so far ahead that to you it's like there's a legitimacy to it that isn't going to be there with a lot of the people after. Because I feel like traditionally a lot of the people who are creating after the pioneers, of course you're gonna have amazing, groundbreaking stuff, but I think objectively a majority of it is just aesthetics and them trying. They like what the pioneers did, but they don't necessarily have anything interesting to say. Right. So they're good at emulating what the pioneers did or what the innovators did, and they're presenting this beautiful form, but the content could never actually hold up to what the pioneering work like offered. And I'm thinking about that in terms of like, okay, our era of like this era of like creation and like in the digital age, it's like aesthetics are fucking everywhere, anything, everything. Like we got our generation
it's
and
all
younger,
form, no content.
I'm saying exactly. Like I'm over the aesthetics thing at a certain level. It's like we got that. We can do whatever.
We got plenty of that.
Look, go through the book, pick a palette, whatever.
Yeah, we got we got the biggest mood board of all time.
Yeah, exactly. We got
we're
a
done
million.
We're done making mood boards.
Yeah. Like now, what do you have to say? Do you have anything?
You have
to
the
say?
tools. You have the references. You have the curation.
And I feel like that's almost like the last. That's like the last like test. It's like, because I'm saying this, I'm not going to name names again, but like I'm thinking of artists where they're making musically amazing fucking shit. Yeah. But when I listen to their songs, it's like my eyes are glazing over because I'm like, you're talking about money again. Right. You're talking about ass again. You're talking about whatever. I do not care. I mean, maybe you could talk about those things in a way where I would care, and I just can't even imagine it right now. But like, I do not care because that's like, and I know I sound like a fucking, you know what I sound like? I sound like a grandpa just talking about ass and money. What happened to the real music? But it's like, at a certain level, cheeks. You know what? The shit that's gonna grab my attention is fucking vulnerability. That's the shit that grabs my attention. It's like, who's gonna fucking open their fucking chest up and let me look at their heart so I can connect to them.
You know what's fucked up? You know what's fucked up? People are not good at making vulnerable art.
I know. Your
vulnerability sucks and it's boring to me.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm starving for, is I'm realizing is like I genuinely there's only a few living people that like right now, like, I don't think I'm the fucking biggest genius, the hot shit in the world. But you know what that feeling is where you're like, you're not doing anything I'm not humbled by what you're doing. Right. I feel that way with film a lot. Like these young filmmakers that like get these like artsy films and they get distribution for these artsy films. And I'm just like, I don't know, like Robert Eggers is fire. Like the Lighthouse is fire. But I'm like, this should be regular shit. Like this should be like, I refuse to accept this as exceptional.
Right.
I don't feel like I couldn't have made that. When you make something, I feel like I couldn't have made it. Like I'm just literally not built that way and I'll never be built that way.
Right.
That's when I'm like, thank you. Give me something fucking, give me nutrition. But like in music, in like comedy even, in fucking movies, everything, it's like,
it's seen
nothing's blowing my mind. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once, for example, great movie. I think it's a fucking classic. It's phenomenal. But I'm like, I wouldn't be like intimidated by like that. I'm not intimidated by these works. Make shit that makes me go like, how the fuck are you that genius?
You know what I want. There's to a degree, I tend to think stuff like that is a choice to do it or not. Because like, I mean, you mentioned comedy. I've seen so many interviews and all these things where like people talk about, like, we've known for 50 years now that the reason Richard Pryor resonated so much with people is because he was vulnerable. Yeah. Because he talked openly about who he was and what he went through growing up and all this stuff. And there are comics who say that, and then they make this active choice of just like, yeah, but I can't do that. I'm gonna just talk about pussy.
Yeah. I was gonna make the same point with music.
Yeah, and it's like, and obviously there's a degree to which that's like some people are just not good at that, but it's also because you don't train that muscle. You know what I'm saying? Like you have this barrier up where you've never explored that in your personal life, so why would you explore it on stage? And I feel like with music, I mean, with music, it's easier to like imitate, at least like on a lyrical sense.
It's easier to compartmentalize it, where I'm like, I'll just be vulnerable in the music, and in real life, I won't be.
Exactly. But you can still sense it when it's, and I mean, talking about Sakamoto, like we've talked about his politics before, and I feel like somebody going out and espousing the same politics as Sakamoto, and you know they don't actually mean it. Like you would sniff that out instantly. Somebody going out and like, if you started like a System of a Down cover band and you never heard of the Armenian genocide or whatever, it's like I can smell that on you. You know what I'm saying? There are mad people who do Rage Against the Machine covers or love their music. We're straight up Nazis. So like,
that's true.
It's
fuck you. I won't do what you tell me.
Unless you're Hitler, then I'll do what you tell me.
Then sing Heil.
But like, I feel like it's easier to get caught in a trap with music where
I mean, sure, Rage Against the Machine, I like them. You know, sure. I mean, listen, if you're gonna listen to some music, you know, listen to Rage Against the Machine.
Hey, now the
I wish they're a little wider, but that's
the big takeaway for me is that everybody's got their own machine to rage against. Mine is the juice. What's your machine?
Mine's racial hierarchy. That's what I'm raging on. Hopefully,
Yeah, it's just like I feel like comedy in a way is like maybe less prone to disingenuity. Is that the word? But it does happen. Whereas music, you can like, especially when you have money attached to it, like you can fake your way through this shit so easily, but there's always somebody that's trying to sniff you out. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's like
the industry plant shit. It's like,
it's either like, and this is why I like oscillate between what am I more interested in at what given time, because it's like sometimes with music, like I am more interested in fakery. I'm more interested in an idea or a character or a sound or an illusion. But then it's like, you know, it's like, but then on the vulnerable end of things, even that sucks sometimes. Like you know what I'm talking about? Like all these like millions of shows that were greenlit by like Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max. They're like these faux prestige, like knockoff shows about someone who's like living in entertainment or something like that. Like this Louis runoff bullshit. And it's like, oh, this is real fucking whatever. But it's like, it's not good. Like at that point the form is now suffering. It's like, okay, the content is good, but you're not good at what this thing is. It's like, and the content's not that fascinating. So it's like, it's fucked up, because that's why I feel like, where are we going? Are we at an end? Does anyone have anything fucking interesting to say? Like,
I mean, it feels like with TV, we're at a place where it's so aware of itself. Every TV project feels so like, what if we did this? Can you imagine if we did this? And like a show like Atlanta, which I've watched and I've enjoyed it. It's a good show, I think. But to a degree, it's also just like, can you imagine if we gave an artist creative freedom? That's the extent of the genius of Atlanta to me. I don't look at that show and say Donald Glover is a genius, which I'm not denying his ability, but I'm also saying
got talent.
He's got talent. He's obviously talented, but like, I watch that show and I'm just like, okay, a TV network gave this man a long leash.
Yeah,
that's what
like,
it is to me. It's like
you get to do weird like Coen Brothers-y shit, like weird. I don't know. It's like, you get to make slightly weird shit. But it's like, is that like, what we're feeding off of? Slightly weird shit, and I think it always goes back to that resource allocation conversation of like, who's getting the actual resources, and why.
Exactly. I mean, to the same point, I have frequently said, if anybody got 4 hours to talk on stage,
right.
You know, anybody could be as good at comedy as Dave Chappelle. You know, people obviously don't have the same experiences as he does, and some people might do it better. Some people are going to do it a lot fucking worse. But if everybody had that freedom to just walk on stage and just say everything they ever thought and just get those hours in, Dave Chappelle would be middle
amongst
to bottom
many
of my
other people.
list. Like,
I do think though that there is, I hate to use this word, a dialectic, because on the other side of it is, where are all of the artists who do have something to say, even if it's burrowed deep inside or put on the back burner? Where are they looking? Where are they looking in terms of like resources or access or distribution, in terms of collaboration, and how is that actively shaping the art that they aspire to actually create, or the things that they actually aspire to say? Another way to put it is like, if you're looking to, you're on the hamster wheel again with the hamster wheel, or you're looking to like, you're looking at the pyramid and looking at just getting higher up in the pyramid, then it doesn't fucking matter how talented or how skilled or how genius you are, because at the end of the day, you're making a crazy ass compromise with forces and powers that ultimately aren't invested in you doing something risky or groundbreaking. They're invested in you in so much as you can provide a commodity that they can sell to maximize their profits.
Right.
I think you could literally say it as simply as, capitalism doesn't breed innovation. Innovation is bred despite capitalism.
We've said it before, but I'm underscoring this point as an appeal to like, to the artist.
Right.
It's like, I'm just tired of like talking with brilliant artists that would be creating genius bodies of work that would be timeless and stand the test of time, but who are literally, their values are so wrapped up in getting the next gig or getting the next show with XYZ corporation or company, instead of like leaning into the technology, the tools, the artists to just start making great things now, and like us figuring out how to usher in a new era. Because like I don't believe that, like, I do believe that there's only so much that we can do as like creative, that humans can do as creative people. But like, this synthesis point is also really important. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been done. I mean, like, and like in the span of human history, like cinema has not been around for that long. Like audio recordings have not been around for that long. So it's like, there just needs to be space that we have to create, like from the bottom up, in which we can start to actually explore our potentialities as creatives. And like the other thing I wanted to say is, and this is where I don't really have as clear ideas or feelings, but maybe there is a certain degree of like like people from like in our age range and younger and maybe older, like just generationally, like people not being cut from the same cloth in terms of having a critical eye or analysis on their craft, on art in general, and that just leading to like not stimulating art, you know? Like it's like, if you to put it another way, it's like, maybe there are people where if you said, look, here's millions of dollars and you have free reign to say whatever you want and there's no pressure, whatever, and it's like whatever would come out of them would not be interesting or not be stimulating.
Well, and also, like, you know, consider the technology aspect where you know, it's hard to have a different perspective when we're all kind of looking through the same funnel of this completely immediate just plane of constant information of equal importance, seemingly. It's hard to, like, you know, like like have a perspective. Like, I grew up here, I did this, I've never been here, I've never done that. It's like, now it's like every fucking person is liable to be exposed to damn near anything. But I do think that there's, you know, there is that lack of space in the real world of, you know, and all these many intersecting reasons, cultures are siloed somewhat sometimes. Like they're not interexposed to each other,
right?
Which is where all of this comes from ultimately,
right?
And you know, we're getting more and more atomized as we go, so it'll be.
Can I say something
worse.
on that?
Yeah.
That leads me to another thing that I've talked with y'all about before, which is like, I feel like, I mean, I could just go, we need to get organized, and then brush my hands together and then call it a day. But like, I want to be more specific. It's like, I feel like a part of this opening up this world and these spaces where dope stuff is getting made and people are connecting, and there is like I use this phrase, cultural consensus or whatever, like there's multiple layers to it. It's like the first step is, I feel like artists who are dope in different areas, literally, I'm sorry, like organizing, like by organizing, I just mean start talking to each other, like fucking set up a group chat on iMessage or Signal or whatever, and be like, hey, I respect you and I respect you, and I feel like we could do blah, 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 blah together, right? And then and carrying that. And then the next layer is like, it's institutional. It's like, what concretely are you creating? How can you get it out to the world and to your respective audiences in a way that's like sustainable? And then carrying that cooperative spirit out across, you know, different mediums and spaces. So collaborating, if you're a musician, collaborating with the visionary directors that you know about, and encouraging them to collaborate and organize with other directors and producers or whatever. So, you know, things building out in that way. But then I feel like on top of that, like we literally need to fucking start to start cultivating a new cultural superstructure.
Yeah,
like we need like new award systems, media, new publications. So where the people who are on the same page about all of these different things we can recognize each other's art, the communities that follow and support our art, we can recognize it and celebrate it together, talk about it on our own terms, and know that people aren't being fucking exploited in the process. Because that's the whole point. It's like to actually sustain it, not just from a economic or material standpoint, but from a social standpoint, like to where people feel like, oh, well, this is different. This is fundamentally different from the fucking Oscars, from the whatever. And also the shit that I'm being exposed to is at a fucking higher caliber, at a higher level than what I'm seeing through these legacy award institutions and media publications or whatever. Like, this is where the good shit is consistently being shared with me. And there's a culture, there's like a culture of humanization, like through and through. It's not this fucking thing where, you know, deep down, damn, there's all these pedophiles in this room, and there's all these like rapists in this room, and everyone's just like, there's gonna be rapists and pedophiles everywhere, for the record, but it's like where you know, people know, where you
look to your left,
where people know,
look to your right,
one of you
know, and there's a silence about it because of the power dynamics. There's not,
of course.
There's not a democratic culture. There's not transparency and so on and so forth. But yeah, I think about that all the time. It's like, dope people need to get together with other dope people who have something to say, start making dope things, and then there needs to be like coverage of that. Like there needs to be like and then discussion about in the coverage and celebration of that. And it's not going to come from the top down. It's not going to be all of this shit that I just described isn't going to be fucking Warner or whoever the fucking
it's going to be consensus. It'll be consensus.
Right.
The best picture of the year. Or maybe the best couple pictures. Maybe it doesn't have to be there's one,
right?
You know,
right?
Like maybe it doesn't.
Or we don't have to. We don't have to rank.
Yeah, exactly.
All, you know,
right? No one has to win.